Hi everyone, my name is Shelby and this is the YouTube series where I reveal what is inside these mystery pottery molds I found on Gumtree. Welcome to part 3 of mold reveals I found on Gumtree. So I am in love with this one because it is a 3-piece mold. I haven't used one of these before, so opening it up I can see inside that there's these sweet little mushroom decals. It's like it's going to be a raised design on these little jars. They're quite an obscure shape and there's 2 of them, so I start by cleaning the surface because I'm not sure what's been in these before I've got them. So I want to make sure they're clear from contamination. So I put the pieces back together and they just sort of click in where the little notches are. And I'll use a big rubber band to hold it in place so that the clay doesn't pour out or spill out of any of the cracks when I pour it in. And you can kind of already see where there was a rubber band from the previous owner. So I'm just putting the rubber band exactly where it was before, because obviously that's where they put it, so it must be a place where it works. So now that that's done, I've mixed my slip up. I get a pre-made slip that I just have to stir. That's just because of personal preference. I don't want the dust in my studio. I don't have the adequate ventilation for that. So I get the pre-mixed stuff and then I pour it into a little jug, and this is just to make it a lot easier for me to pour it into the holes. As you could see before, the way it comes out of that bucket is quite thick and it would spill everywhere if I poured it directly from the bucket. So in the jug it goes and I gently pour it. I want to make sure that there's an even consistency on how I'm pouring it. So being very cautious and gentle, making sure that it's nice and slow so that I can catch it if it doesn't have the right support. So what I mean by that is if it does start to spill, at least I'm doing it slowly so I can quickly grab another rubber band or hold it together over a sieve or pick it up in time so it doesn't spill everywhere. But yeah, I filled it right to the top just to see because I'm not really sure how it's going to look at the bottom. After about 15 minutes, I tipped it out. It was actually really heavy and really awkward and it took a really long time to drip out, so I ended up putting it on my sieve over a recycle bucket. So now it's reveal time. It's been setting for a couple of hours now and I'm really excited to see how it comes apart. So I start by pulling off that top piece, and as you can see it's actually created a hole in the bottom of the vessel. So this bit was really satisfying, so I just showed you that as well. But it's created this little hole which I believe is for salt and pepper to go inside. So I'm pulling off one of the halves. And look how delightful these pieces are. They are so gorgeous. I am in love with mushroom pottery and this has blown me away because these are just so delicate. The shape and the direction of the mushrooms, they kind of look like they're growing into each other and like with each other. I think it's just such a sweet little design. So I start by pulling them out really gently because they are still quite soft. As you can see by the color of the clay, it's still a little bit brown, which means it's still very wet. I just start by smoothing out the line of where the mold joins, and that's just so you can't see it when I glaze it and then there's no evidence of that. I sketched out a P and an S on the top to start marking out the holes for the salt and pepper. And this was really satisfying. So I went around with the pin tool, but then I went back around and made the hole bigger with the pin tool by just doing like a rotation with the pin tool. And this is just so that when it shrinks in the kiln, it's big enough, the holes are big enough that I can go back in with the pin tool and clear any clutter, and so I can glaze them well. So I start by getting my underglaze for the painting job, and I'm doing some really soft pastel-y colours. So I've got a really lovely mix of the orange for the main part of the mushroom. The stalk is more of a peachy colour, so I'm adding all of that, and then I do the grasses. The grasses were actually really hard to stop them from the underglaze from bleeding into the mushroom, but I feel like I got a nice colour on there, and I did it sort of like a variegated leaf, so I've added like a dark green and then some soft light green on top to sort of make it a variegated feel. And then I thought, you know what's more exciting than just a plain mushroom? Little faces, because they looked like they were sort of nurturing each other and encouraging each other to grow. So I decided to use like a guardian mushroom with 2 little baby mushrooms, and I've added their little faces on there as well. So now that those faces are added, I added some extra little details to really add to the character and make it really whimsical. So some little cheeks were added, as well as some nice little yellow spots to really add to that mushroom character. Yeah, I know it's not going to be for everyone, the faces, but I just thought I did a bit of research on these before I painted them to see what sort of was out there, and no one was really doing them with the faces and making them into these sweet little characters. So I popped them in the kiln. There's a step that I missed showing you because I lost all the files because my computer deleted them, but I didn't show you how I glazed them. So it was just a really creamy speckled glaze on the sides around the mushrooms after I had underglazed them. And here is the finished result. I actually really love them. They were a lot difficult to underglaze. Like, I had this concept and it took a lot longer than I thought. I had some teething issues with the actual salt shaker. Salt and pepper shaker. As you can see on the top, it's kind of really glazed over. Like I said, with the pin tool, I tried to get in there, but it actually just sealed them completely. I'll figure out that later. It just means that they're not really functional. So I won't be selling these pieces. I'll work out the glazing so that it doesn't clog up the hole next time. And I also need to find a cork for the bottom. So I'll have to have a look at a supplier. But otherwise, I think they're really dreamy, really sweet, really cute. And I can't wait to make more of these critters. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.